Liverpool have had their initial bid rejected by Newcastle, and rumor has it that they have no intentions of bidding again. Well, that is something I don't believe, because they have had a verbal agreement with Isak. So them now taking a step back would mean that they have backstabbed him. You know what I mean? Of which I doubt is something they will do. I think they're still going to go in and bid for him, because it shows how much they need him. It's just that they just want to wait and see. And also, it is said that the reason why Newcastle have rejected the bid is because they're still trying to look for a replacement which obviously they had set their sights on Benjamin Sesko, but because Benjamin Sesko wants to go to United instead, that would mean that they have lost on him. So right now they have to go on and search, and they have their eyes on Wissa from Brentford, whom also is keen on the move to Newcastle. So it's just about them getting the deal done. Unfortunately, Brentford have put on a price tag of £50 million, and Newcastle have no intentions of popping that kind of money. They think Wissa, at 28 years of age, is worth only 30 million. So what's going to happen? That's going to be a problem for Liverpool, and that's one of the things that I've actually mentioned in our previous video, that it's going to be a problem if Newcastle fail to get the right type of player that they want to replace Isak. And that would mean that could hamper Isak going to Liverpool. And right now, this is exactly what we see. But what is going to happen? Another problem also I might add is that on the 24th of August, Liverpool are set to play Newcastle at St. James Park. So I doubt they'd want to sell him as quick as possible and have him play against them on the 24th. Maybe they might hold on to it until the very last day of the, of the closing window. Maybe they might, because they don't want their own player to play against them. You know what happens when most of your former players play against you. They always are the ones that puts a nail to the coffin. So probably they might be trying to avoid that. And also, looking at it from Newcastle's point of view, right? I'd say that I think I understand why they are rejecting the selling Isak to Liverpool. Newcastle are trying to build a dynasty. And in Isak, they have a striker that is probably the best in the world, or maybe part of top 5 best strikers in the world. And it only makes sense for them to try to build a squad around him, a squad that can be able to compete for the league, for the Champions League, and other competitions in which they're in. Right now, their rivals are probably teams like Liverpool, Manchester City, Arsenal, United, right? And you now have a team that you believe you're going to compete against for all those prestigious accolades. They're there now, they want your best player. Why would you want to give them your best player? It doesn't make any sense. This is a player that you're supposed to be building around, and this is a player that may be able to bring in the accolades that you want. This is a player that can be able to build your club, in Europe, so that they can make it big again. And right now, he also wants to go to Liverpool, and of which I understand it from his point of view too, because building takes time, and time is something that players do not have. Right now, he's 25. In 5 years' time, he's 30. And if he was to wait for Newcastle to try to build, what if they don't win anything for the next 5 years? What has happened to his career? Nothing. So, but if he goes to Liverpool, he is at least promised a few trophies here and there. So that's one of the reasons why I think he wants to go. And also, using Liverpool as an example, Liverpool sold Philippe Coutinho to Barcelona, right, for a hefty amount of money. And with that money, they were able to bring Virgil van Dijk, the best defender in the world, in my opinion. They bought also Alisson Becker, the best goalkeeper on his day in the world, personally. And look what they have achieved with them. Look what Liverpool has achieved. They have brought in 2 league titles. They've also brought in a Champions League. And also they've been in the Champions League. They've been in 3 finals, Champions League finals. They could have actually had all 3, if luck was on their side, but they didn't. Of course, they won 1. It's still something. So sometimes for you to turn a new leaf, sometimes for you to build that dynasty that you wish to build, you're going to need to sell the best player. The best player can give you the money that you need, and with that money you are able to bring in players with potential, players that can help elevate your club. And at this point, I think that's something that Newcastle should consider, especially if the player doesn't want to play for you guys, especially if the player wants to set his sights for different teams with greater ambitions. And this doesn't mean if they sell him to Liverpool, they don't have ambition. They do have ambition, but Newcastle have rich owners or wealthy owners, but the revenues, they don't have good revenues to actually go on and buy all these players. That's why they can't even pop out 50 million for Wisa at 50 million quid. It's actually very good, Wisa. Let's be honest about that. He's very good. And I know that with him and Ilanga, something can happen there. Something can happen there. And now what is set to happen is that they have to sell Isak to Liverpool. They have to set a pricing tag, whatever amount that is. I don't know if it's going to be 130 million quid or it's going to be more, but they need to set an asking price. And if Liverpool obviously buys into it, and they bring him to Anfield, they use that money to buy the strikers that they believe that can be able to change and elevate their club. That's all there is to it. Keeping him, that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Obviously, he's gonna go back, but he's not really gonna play the way he should. And I don't think it's like you're holding on to, you're abducting him. In fact, it's like you're abducting him. I don't think that's that's the right thing to do. You need players that want to play for the badge. You need players that want to be there, and for him to be there, you are going to have to make sure that you just sell him so that he goes where he thinks he deserves to be, and you bring in the players that can help you. And when those players help you, then he will see how big of a club you are. Right now, Newcastle are failing to bring anyone. They don't have the pull factor. They don't have the pull factor because nobody really understands their ambitions. Also, a lot of players, they hear that Isak might also be on his way out, so they don't know what's happening there. But if they bring the right type of players and the club improves, then they can have that pull factor again. United, they've been terrible for the past 5 seasons, but look at them right now. Look at them right now. They still have that pull factor. They still have that pull factor. That's because they have, they have accumulated that or grown it over the last 30 years. Right now, even though there's nothing about them to talk about, the fact that they're United, they'll still have that pull factor. Something that Newcastle have been performing better, United has not, but United still has the pull factor. That's what Newcastle needs to work on. And keeping Isak, I don't think is the way for them to go, especially because they don't even have money right now. They don't have the money that the club has generated in itself to go for all those expensive players. The only money they have is from their owners, which also I think will land them into problems, just like how Manchester City are currently fighting for such, where you see the owner of the club trying now to find ways to put money into the club so that they can be able to bring in players. That's something they're going to try to do, and in the end it's going to hurt them, but if they sell him, it's going to be good for them. That's my 2 cents. That's my 2 cents. And I also think that Liverpool are definitely going to go in again for another bid. Maybe Newcastle just have intentions of keeping him until that first leg play against Liverpool on the 24th. After that, maybe they might look to sell him. But I'm afraid also that the asking price they have is definitely going to be something Liverpool will probably be shocked at. And I don't know if Liverpool will have the time to be able to bring all that amount and bring him to Anfield. And also I think it's going to be a problem now when you're bringing in a player when you're 2 games in. It's gonna take him some time to actually gel and understand how Liverpool plays. But it is what it is. At the end of the day, what's important is you getting your man, which I think Liverpool will go hell and back to make sure it happens. Okay, so thank you guys for watching until this far. Please do not forget to like and subscribe, and also share your thoughts. See you again soon. Bye bye.